I've gotten myself another camcorder. It's not a Digital 8 Handycam this time. It's actually an analog Hi8 machine from Sony. And this isn't just any regular Hi8 camcorder. It's actually a Hi8 XR camcorder from 1999. The camera's in that bag, and then over here, for some reason, the seller decided to throw in a VHS tape of, I don't know what it is, it says Magic Vision on it. Copyright date of 1988 from Neptune, New Jersey, so it's a bit interesting. I have to see what this is. I don't even know what this is, but I could always use another VHS tape. But here is the main camera. This is something that I've been on the lookout for a while now. I really wanted to be able to get a Hi8 XR camcorder, one of Sony's really good Hi8 camcorders that not only offered increased resolution but also stereo audio, because this, folks, is the Sony CCD-TRV87 Hi8 XR camcorder from 1999. Was originally sold for a list price that was close to, if not $1,000 back in 1999, a very steep price for a camcorder like this, considering that now it seems that you can buy one used for at least $149 off of Amazon.com. It came in this Ambigo camera carrying case here, which actually looks to be a bit too small for the camera itself, because it looks as if they squeezed the viewfinder in. I hope that's not actually broken. Here is the camera itself in the case. Wow, they certainly jammed that into there. This is not made for a large, bulky, analog Hi8 tape-based camcorder like this. This is made like for a really small mini DV camcorder, so I'm surprised, and I'm surprised I don't see any broken parts. I hope there's nothing that got broken in transit. So we have a remote control here, which is not even a Sony remote control. It's for a Hitachi, what I'm assuming would be a DVD or maybe a hard drive camcorder. I don't really know. Again, that would lead credence to the fact of why this camera didn't fit properly in here and they just jammed it in. But let's see what else is in here. There shouldn't be too much else. The seller didn't mention there being anything else in here. Nothing in there. Okay, it seems the zipper got snagged on here, but that looks to be the end that plugs into your AC outlet for the power charger. And then in here, let's see what's in here. Yep, in here is the actual DC power charger itself, the standard two-prong slide-in connector that most Sony Hi8 and Digital 8 camcorders used. And then in here we have a little cleaning cloth in there, so that's always good to have. And this was certainly not the first XR series camcorder that they made. They had several Video8 XR camcorders that preceded this. Although I think it's safe to say that this was probably one of the last Hi8 XR camcorders that they made. They ended production of these XR series of camcorders sometime in mid to late 1999 to continue with and promote their Digital 8 camcorders. So these only had a very short span of being sold in the marketplace. That's one of the reasons why they're not very easy to come by, and if they are, they're rather expensive and pricey. This being a Sony Handycam, it has Nightshot capabilities, although this is after they depowered the system, so you can't be using this thing to see through objects. And then this has a super Nightshot feature, which just lowers the shutter speed exponentially, which leads to having a very blurry and smeary picture, but if you're in a very dark environment, at least you can see in total darkness. 360x digital zoom, of course that's of no use to me, but this does have a 20x optical zoom. And we have some focus controls here for auto, manual, infinity, and then this does not have an actual focus wheel like the Digital 8 design of this camcorder had, so you control the focus by using this little jog wheel down here. And you do have a power switch here for camera, off, and VTR. Notice it doesn't say VCR because this has the ability to actually record video and audio, stereo audio, through its AV jacks to the tape. And unlike that TRV103 that I have, this has an automatic lens shutter that turns on, opens and closes when you turn this camera on. You have a halogen spotlight here that is extremely bright, and a Nightshot sticker here. Super laserlink capabilities. The button is located up here, so you get increased range with the super laserlink as opposed to regular laserlink, which is always a nice feature to have if you use a laserlink receiver to send video wirelessly to your TV. Hi-Fi stereo, another big bonus of having one and using one of these Hi8 XR camcorders is, unlike the analog Hi8 camcorders that had mono audio, these had very good quality built-in stereo microphones that sound exceptional even by today's standards. We have a record indicator LED light, a little infrared embossing here on this plastic cover, and if I switch Nightshot on, we should be able to see inside of here. We have the Nightshot infrared emitter, which looks to be right about here, and then what looks to be the infrared receiver for the wireless remote control, and the super laserlink transmitter as well. Here is the control for that halogen spotlight. You have off, auto, and on. They used an actual switch here as opposed to the newer Hi8 camcorders that used a button up on the top. So it does make some sound when you turn it on, but it's not that difficult to turn on actually. And two more great features to have on a camcorder: a stereo 3.5mm microphone jack and a stereo 3.5mm headphone jack for monitoring the audio. So you can hook up an external microphone on here and monitor it using its headphone jack. And you could also use this just to monitor the audio from its built-in stereo microphones. And the hand strap, unlike a lot of these older Sony Handycams from this time period, is not shredded and completely deteriorated. It's actually in very good condition. And that piping that they put, that fake leather piping, looks to have been taken off or worn off. We do have a little window here to see the tape inside of it, and an LANC connector to use this with an external remote control. You can even use these with one of those Sony branded tripods that have the remote control integrated into the handle of a tripod that you use to adjust it, which was one of the main reasons why this camcorder was used quite heavily in police departments. I see these turn up every now and again with the Police Technologies box on here that would mount into a dashboard mount in the police cruiser. And that box on the bottom that would connect into the police cruiser's dashboard mount would control this camera through its LANC jack, so there would not be any intervention necessary from the police officer. You have an eject switch here. It's not a button. You actually need to push in this little blue button and then you slide this down to eject the tape. A photo button. This is too old to have a memory stick slot, but it'll take the photos to the actual tape itself, and it will record audio for that 5 seconds, which is kind of a neat feature if you want to make some sort of a photo postcard or something. You take the picture and it'll record 5 seconds of the audio as it's taking that picture. You have your edit search controls, which were dropped on later Hi8 Handycams, which is a bit of a letdown because it's nice to have on a camera so you don't have to keep switching to the video playback mode if you want to just tape over a brief portion of video, or let's say go back just a few seconds and re-record over that or something like that. So you have those controls here, and then your regular tape transport controls. Now there are several different versions of this particular Handycam. On Sony's website, the CCD-TRV87 is the Hi8 XR model, and then they just had a regular Hi8 model, which was the TRV67, and then they had several Video8 XR camcorders, the TRV17, 37, and 57. But the Hi8 XR is the hardest one to find in good working condition because it has many features that all of the other versions didn't have. And for anyone who's interested, there's the list of the differences between the various models. You can see the TRV17 has the least amount of features, whereas the TRV87 has every single feature checked, including the ability to use advanced overlap and wipe fades, stereo audio, and digital effects, as well as super laserlink, and the ability to record video and audio through its AV jacks. This camcorder actually uses the older InfoLithium L series batteries, which are becoming quite hard to find in working condition used. It took me quite a bit of trying to buy an InfoLithium L battery that actually worked for my Digital 8 camcorder, so I'm hoping this one actually works, and provides a decent amount of battery life, because otherwise I'll have to try to scour the web finding one that actually is in working condition. And the black and white viewfinder, which actually uses a miniature CRT inside of it. When you put this camera on, you can actually hear the whine and whistle of the CRT element, just barely. I don't think you can even hear that over the tape noise of this camcorder. And you may have just noticed that as I was demonstrating that this camera was beeping and it just ejected the tape. And this camera seems to be subject to several flights of fancy throughout its operating life, because you'll just be in the middle of using it and it'll just stop and put an error code up on the screen, and it'll pop up a tape, and then you just have to close it. And you can see sometimes it doesn't want to close, and the only way to fix that I've figured out is you just hold the battery, you take the battery out for about 3 to 4 seconds, you put that back in, and then when you close this, it resets whatever it is that stopped working in there. It works fine and carries on normally. Most of the time, the only time that it actually misbehaves that way is after this thing has been powered off for a significant amount of time and has been jostled around. Here is that amber backlit LCD screen, and it says Handycam Hi8. It shows you the current time, your recording mode, SP or LP, and then your battery level. And I noticed that with this series of Handycams that uses this body style and has the same LCD display, when you're recording it or playing back video in playback mode, the Handycam logo, each letter will blink on and off sequentially, starting with the H and ending with the M, and then it'll just keep repeating. And you do have a focus control here for the viewfinder. And then we have fader controls, backlight, program AE, an exposure control, and a jog wheel to adjust these settings. There's a volume control and an LCD brightness control that's right on the edge of the LCD monitor. And as is standard procedure with all the Sony Handycams, the Hi8 and Digital 8 Handycams, you have a little button you have to push to open this up, so it doesn't open up on its own. And this thing apparently was on this whole time. We power that off for now. You have date and time controls. Because this is an analog Hi8 camcorder, it has the ability to record the date and time straight on the tape. Counter reset, because obviously this is an analog camcorder, it doesn't deal with digital time codes on the tape. A display feature, a display button, end search to return where it last recorded so you can continue where you left off. A menu control, digital effects and picture effects. Digital effects were not included on any of the other model Handycams that use this particular body style. The 87 was the only model that had digital effects, which allow you to actually do some pretty neat effects like luma keying and overlay effects. You have your analog picture effects, pretty standard fare for other analog Hi8 camcorders, and this does have a titler as well. A speaker that actually gets pretty loud, and because this camcorder is so old, it backs up its date, time, and counter information via a backup battery, a CR2025 watch battery, which you get about 3 to 4 years out of this. I've had other camcorders last even longer than that. And you get a 2.5-inch matte LCD screen. It's really easy to see, and even in bright conditions, because it's not glossy, you don't see a reflection of yourself. You can see it very easily, and even then, if this doesn't work out for you in bright light, you can just use the black and white viewfinder. And they claim 16 hours of battery life with a NP-F960 high capacity battery. Well, this is an NP-F750, so hopefully it won't be too far off. And then on the bottom you have a metal tripod mount, so there's no risk of stripping it, easily at least, and a locator pin. So without further ado, let's turn this on. You can see it takes but a moment to turn on. Now if we go through the menu on this thing, we have a digital zoom 16:9 wide, which you have the cinema mode, and then the 16:9 full mode, which records an anamorphic 16:9 image, which is squished into the regions of 4:3, and then you have to use a TV or a video editor that can properly stretch it back to 16:9. I'll leave that off for now. Steady shot, Nightshot light, a wind cut filter, but that just employs a high pass filter, so it cuts all the bass frequencies out, so it sounds actually a bit tinny. You have a photo mode here, which gives you a few different options. You have normal, which just takes a still image. You can have it fade or even play a shutter sound when it takes the photograph, but I just leave it normally, so I don't really need that. LCD backlight color, record mode, you can record an SP or LP, pretty much standard fare on these camcorders. Now this camcorder has something on it called auto date, which if you pick up this camcorder and start recording for the first time that day, it will put the actual date and it will record it in the lower right hand corner for the first 5 or so seconds of the tape. And then we have auto TV on. This has the ability to turn on your TV that's equipped with laserlink automatically. I've never been able to actually test that feature and how it works. TV input, video 1, video 2, or video 3, that corresponds with the laserlink capabilities, so I just leave it alone. Demo mode, and then some controls here for world time. The beep, you can use the classic sound or the melody, but I just leave it on the regular setting. We have commander, display, record lamp, and then the indicator. This is what turns on that amber backlight on that little LCD display on our LCD monitor, so I leave that on. And this does have a titler, so we can title anything we want, like hello. I can press that and record whatever I want. Here we are on the Sony CCD-TRV87 Hi8 XR camcorder from 1999, and we're recording in stereo, so you should be able to hear me on, well, the right channel of your speakers, and now on the left channel, and now in the dead center. And one thing I noticed right away is that the built-in microphones on this camcorder sound extremely good. They're very crisp, and they have a lot of stereo separation, something you don't see very often on new camcorders. And it's a balmy 68 degrees in here. For some reason the outside temperature isn't showing on here. I have to look into that and see what's causing that. And this does have the ability to record 16:9 wide videos, although just for the sake of conformity and uniformity, I'm sticking to 4:3. That's what I've recorded this whole video in. And here is the use of the halogen spotlight now. Just switch it on. You can just see how extremely bright it actually is. Casts a lot of light, which is really good. It actually works a bit better than the LED spotlight on my Digital 8 handycams. So definitely good for recording in low light situations. Here are some more Sony Digital 8 tapes that I got. I have plenty of them to go with my camera. Okay, time for an audio demonstration here. Let's find a station that's playing some good music.
Ending 14.
Now on a third.
Like resignation to the end, always the end. So when we found.
And here we are with the usual low light test here at my desk. There's some lighting across the room, but there's nothing on over here. So it's actually quite dark. So I'll put the halogen light on again. And you can see that this halogen spotlight is actually a lot brighter than the one that was on my Sony CCD-TRV87. It's got a dimmer halogen spotlight than this camera does. And accordingly, it also kills the battery a bit faster, but it's a trade-off I'm willing to make. I'm really impressed with how well this thing performs. And here's just a cheapy Radio Shack switch I got the other day. It's you can use it with audio or video. It's got 5 inputs and a manual auto operation. So if you have everything shut off and you turn on just one device, it will automatically switch to its respective input. But something I don't understand with this switch is that it has 2 outputs, one main output and then an output 2, but there's no way to actually output video to both outputs, so that's a bit strange. Steady shot works very well on this camera. It's very steady. And the tape's running out, so let's do a quick test of Nightshot. Well, this is in low light, the only light coming from that screen, and it's grainy but very visible. So let's put on Nightshot now. Yeah, very bright. This has the older Nightshot system, so it's got a square hotspot in the center, and while it isn't evenly distributed, it does well to actually go a bit further than the newer system that they used on their Digital 8 models. So I could step back even more. You can see that it's still very bright. And if I turn on the Super Nightshot feature, you can see it actually gets a bit smeary, but it will adjust the shutter speed accordingly to how bright it needs to make the image. So if I cover this up a little bit, you can see how it'll start lowering the shutter speed significantly. It'll start getting very smeary. And unlike my Digital 8 TRV103, it does not have the ability to use different shutter speeds in Super Nightshot mode. So it's just a fixed automatic shutter speed adjustment. Oh yeah, let's try the halogen spotlight, see how well that works. Again, you can just see how well it actually does. It casts a very good amount of light. So here we are again, just using the halogen spotlight. Let's try zooming in all the way again. You can see it does a very good job of steadying out the image. It's not shaky at all. Let's try the digital effects now because they're kind of cheesy but equally cool. Let me just put on some lights here. So we've got something called trail, which just trails the image. It looks like an old music video or something like that. And you can adjust the intensity of it too. Slow shutter. This doesn't have any manual shutter speed control, so you have to use presets. There's slow shutter 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the highest mode. You can see it also is the slowest and smeariest mode. And we have old movie, which doesn't actually record a true 16:9 image. It just letterboxes the top and bottom, and it has a sepia and what looks to be a slow shutter or some kind of trail filter. It's kind of interesting, although not really useful. We have something neat called Luma key. So if I put this on something that has a great deal of contrast, you could do really cool Luma key effects right in the camera. You don't even need any kind of video editor, and you can adjust the intensity of this too. It's pretty cool though. That actually, I'm really surprised at how well that worked. Of course it works best with high contrast objects. We have something called flash, which just gives us a stutter effect, and again you can adjust the intensity of it. This looks like some kind of a reenactment of a dramatization of some kind of scene or something in a documentary. And then still, which will just overlay a still. The moment you engage it, it will take a still image, and you can control the opacity of it, which is somewhat useful if you want to, I don't know, do a photo video montage or something like that. Or you can put up the opacity all the way to 100%, and then you can just leave a still image on it constantly so that it just records the photo, but it'll continue to record the audio, so you can make almost like a photo slideshow. Okay, so that's it for the digital effects. Let's see the picture effects. We have pastel, negative art, which is always a pretty neat feature on these cameras, sepia, black and white, solarize, mosaic, slim, and stretch, and that's it for the effects on there. Well, that was interesting. The focus, the zoom button didn't want to work. It wasn't engaging, so I just tapped it and it just started working again. Seems to be a pretty chronic problem with these old handycams. Again, I'm just really amazed at how well this thing does with just its built-in halogen spotlight. I think this thing has something close to a 0.4 or 0.8 low lux rating, which is very, very good. Doesn't even compare to this Sony Digital 8 camcorder, which needs something close to like 4 lux or something like that. So I want to play this VHS and see what it is. I don't really know. It just says copyright 1988 SS Adams Co. Neptune, New Jersey. Runtime of 71 minutes. I don't know if this is a TV show or what, but either way, I could just cover up the little write protection tab here with a piece of tape and re-record over it if the contents aren't that interesting, but it's kind of weird how the seller included that. So that's going to do it for this Sony CCD-TRV87 from 1999. And let's do a fader here.